Finally, before I sign out and leave the room dead, or hopefully until Vincent comes back, I'll try not to. My last one is, while I was out and about in my last errand running thing last Wednesday, I was getting a pie from the local bakery, and I saw a towie. Now, this towie had blocked the normal one-way flow of traffic, so people actually had to go the wrong way into the car park to even get there, because the obnoxious cunt, what he had done is he had hooked up this guy's car, and the guy had showed up. And after about a 10-minute or 5 or 10-minute conversation, he actually dropped the car back down again and then fucked off. Now, I was curious at the time how he did it, so being me, wandered over to the guy who was currently sitting there talking to another fella, and I said to him, was he going to tow you? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, how long were you parked here for? He says, oh, it's 3 3/4 hours. He was over the time limit. He didn't deny that. But I says, so how did you get him to put you down? And he goes, well, I paid him. He paid him $100. He paid that prick $100 for showing up, lifting up his car and dropping it down again, none of which was at his request. So I said to him, you realise there's no contract. You do not have to pay them anything. They might say, well, I've been called out, someone's going to pay for my call out. Well, it wasn't you that called them, and they need to go and chase the person that made the call for tow service up for that cash, because it ain't your problem. And if that person that made that tow service wants to come and chase you up for it, good luck holding that up in court. They are unenforceable. So I looked up. Now, this was a private body corporate. It was a shopping centre, so obviously it wasn't a public car park. It was accessible to the public, but it's run by a body corporate. The council does not maintain it. It's maintained privately. So therefore, it's private property. Now, I'll read you out this. If I park my car on private property, can it be towed away? Landowners have relied on an ancient doctrine the lawyers call distress damage feasance to tow cars parked on their property. The doctrine provides that it is lawful for an occupier of land to seize any chattels which are unlawfully upon their land and have done or are doing damage there, and detaining them until payment of compensation for the damages made. In other words, if your cow wanders onto your neighbour's paddock and starts ripping up your lettuce paddock, they can hold on to the cow until the owner of the cow pays for the damage to the lettuces. Or if you kick a football into the neighbour's window, the neighbour holds on to the football until you pay for the window. Simple fucking shit, really. But where is the damage when you're simply parking in a time-allotted thing? It's not a place where you're paying a fee to enter. It's a free car park with only a time limit. Okay? If you wonder what this has to do with towing cars, you're not alone. In 1984, a High Court judge observed it's not easy and perhaps unwise to make a very ancient remedy fit the vastly changing circumstances of modern life. If there ought to be a remedy to meet modern needs, then it will come much more appropriately from Parliament than from the courts. In other words, he would expect legislators to write some legislation as opposed for it to be a court decision setting the law. But unfortunately, that's how it's done. You make a court for a case precedent. You make a ruling at law, which is what we call case law, which is what previous judgments have been made that you can use to have a ruling upon. So that's what he's saying. He'd prefer legislators to do it. To exercise distress damage feasance, 3 key elements must be satisfied. Those are: the owner of the private land must have exclusive possession of the land, and you do not have the right to park there. Well, that's wrong, because it's it's open to the public. So you do have the right to park there. There must be actual damage to the property. Didn't see any from a car parked in a car park. And 3, your car must still be on the land. Now that was there. Remember, the guy showed up while it was being towed. It says, but my car didn't cause any damage. It says, damage to property is an essential element of distress damage feasance. However, as physical damage is rarely caused simply by parking a car on someone else's property, the same judge recognised that if the remedy of distress damage feasance is to be applied to model conditions, then it seems inevitable that the cost of removing an illegally parked vehicle would need to be regarded as actual damage. So the damage from the landowner's perspective is the cost of getting your car towed, although they're not paying for your car to be towed. You're paying the towing fee. Remember that. What happens if I arrive back as my car is being hooked up to the tow truck, just as I witnessed? And this is what the guy didn't do but should have. After considering a case in which a car was towed away from a parking lot with the owner still in it, the High Court ruled that distress damage feasance does not apply where the owner of the car has possession, and by simply getting into your car while it's getting hooked up, you are taking possession. This is based on the principle that there is a risk of a breach of peace attached to exercising distress damage feasance in the presence of the owner. In other words, you may hold on to that car, but if you try taking that car while the car's being held by the owner, you might cause yourself a breach of the peace. So you try and take that car, tow it away while the owner's committing, Mr. Towie, that is, a breach of the peace with the man or the owner still in the vehicle. So if you get into, and this is what it says here, this is from consumerrights.org.nz, okay, or consumer.org.nz, consumer rights website. So if you get into your car, effectively gaining possession and control of it, a tow truck driver must release it. So all of you people that are seeing your car getting towed, don't stand on the side of the road arguing with the fucker. Just get in your car. He's obligated to put it down again and leave you alone. However, most tow truck drivers will attempt to charge you a call-out fee if they have already broken into your car in order to hook it up. Remember, you can claim damages for your broken car in disputes tribunal. If your car's insured, you can either make a claim through your insurance and then chase up that excess fee or whatever it is from the tow truck company that caused the damage, because clearly they caused it, breaking in, or you can effectively go to a panel beater or whoever, get the damage assessed without making a claim or a no claims bonus you might lose on your insurance, and you can go and get it assessed yourself and then use that assessment as a claim in disputes tribunal. Disputes tribunal, anything up to, I think it's $5,000 or $10,000 minimum. Small claims court or disputes tribunal, you pay $50, $45 to lodge the claim, and you can claim those as costs back with your claim anyway. All right. So, if there are no warning signs, can my car still be towed? Yes. All right. So they can still tow your car even if there's no signs. If my car was damaged, can I do anything about it? Well, that's where they're just rehashing what I've just told you about the disputes tribunal. Okay, but I would like to point out, however, most tow trucks will attempt to carry a call-out fee if they have already broken in your car to hook it up. Last sentence, you do not have to pay. No obligation. You didn't call them for service. Some other fucker did. And according to their rules, tow truck there must be some legal requirements for towies. This is what their rules are and what they have to stick to. Yes, the Land Transport Rule Operator Licensing 2007 places a number of obligations on a holder of a vehicle recovery service license, i.e. a towee. Tow operators and their drivers must be licensed. A tow operator is responsible for the conduct of his or her drivers. In other words, the parent company, the owner-operator, not particularly the driver, but they are responsible for the driver's actions. Therefore, it's what you call vicarious liability. The owner of the company, it all falls on him. A tow truck driver must behave in an orderly and civil manner at all times while engaged in the operation of a vehicle recovery service. In other words, while they're hooking up your car. A breach of this rule can result in an individual being fined up to $2,000 if convicted, or a firm of up to $10,000 if convicted. Not saying you should try and rack up the towie on the side of the road, but if they lose their cool, stiff penalties. And hey, people that are getting their car towed, they can become emotional. That's perfectly okay. But a tow truck driver must behave. It's in their rules. Tow operators must display on both the inside and outside of every tow truck their name, business location, contact phone number, and the name of any organisation which they belong. For example, the Transport Tow and Salvage Federation. This identification must be clearly legible and visible at all times. Well, you get a lot of them, you see them rubbed out and you can hardly fucking make out who they're from. A tow truck driver is only able to tow a vehicle if a, in parentheses, tow authority has been completed. In other words, he needs to go to who called him out to get them to sign a tow authority, so then he has something in writing to fall back and claim if he can't get the money out of the person he's about to go and steal their property from. A tow authority is a form approved by the New Zealand Transport Agency, the NZTA, requiring certain details to be recorded. Details include the registration plate of the vehicle being moved, details of the person ordering the tow, not the driver, along with the details of the tow operator. The reason why the vehicle is being towed must be specified. A vehicle can't be towed unless the tow authority is signed by the driver or vehicle owner, which means if you don't sign that tow authority, they can't tow it, apparently. The landowner or person who, is signed by the driver or vehicle owner, an enforcement officer, in other words, a cop or a parking officer, the landowner, or the person who requested the tow. In other words, they just want someone to take liability for their call out. It's to cover their own ass. If this is not possible, the tow truck driver must record the details of the person who requested the tow. All right? So at the very least, they need to know who called in the service. A tow truck operator must maintain a registrar of tows which specifies all the tow authorities completed. A tow authority must be updated to the registrar within 18 hours of completion of the tow. Okay, the complaints process. It depends on the severity of the issue. There's 3 different types. Contact the tow operator directly, contact NZTA's regional office and discuss it with the transport officer, or contact the police in case of serious criminal offending. In other words, in case they fucked up your car badly. How much can a towee charge? Now, he got this guy recorded, and that's going to be uploaded soon once I've edited it. This guy recorded, I also ran out and gave my card to, so I'm sure he's watching the channel waiting. He was charged $100. So the question is, how much can a towee charge? As much as they like is the answer. Well, not quite, it says. There is no set amount a tow operator must charge when towing a car from private property. However, the courts have suggested they should only charge for expenses reasonably incurred in removing an unlawfully parked vehicle. This makes it worth mounting a challenge in disputes tribunal if the amount seems excessive. What's this about storage fees? Storage fees can be between $10 to $15 a day. As the tow fee itself, you should challenge any storage fee you believe to be excessive. So if they try charging you $100 a day. I remember I got towed from a car park. I was actually at court questioning a speeding ticket. I was there for just over 3¼ hours. It was a 3-hour car park, and it cost me $225 for them to have it back at their yard and for it to be released less than 2 hours afterwards. And boy, did I get into a row then. Back then, I wasn't recording everything. I wish I was, because by God, it was a doozy of an argument. They don't have to allow you to pay by check, mail or credit card, or with cash. If you're paying by credit card, disputes matter later. So here's a good little tip. If you are paying a towing charge or a towage fee with a credit card, always write without prejudice, which means it cannot be held against you in a court of law. Right? Write without prejudice on the credit card slip before you sign it. So don't just sign the credit card slip, write without prejudice first. Right? End of. That way you're covered and they can't use that against you because it's signed without prejudice. Remember to keep your receipt. You may need it if you file a claim in disputes tribunal. Now we have parking on private land rules as well, which I'm not going to get into because, quite frankly, I can't be fucked reading anymore. I hate reading. That is why I have auto readers and why I put up shit that's got Microsoft David reading it for me. It's not that I can't read. It's just that I really can't be fucked. I hate it. And yet, after 40 odd years of being on this planet, and after hating to read all my life, I decided to start reading law books and legal dictionaries. Go figure. I guess I've just had enough bullshit of other fuckers trying to tell me what I can and can't do. So, there you have it, people.